Hi, this is Meilin hosting today's Talk of the Bay. In honor of learning of the passing of Jesse Jackson, I just want to read a few words about him. Some of you might know of his work and so on. I just spoke to someone who did not know he had passed. So I'd like to just say a few words. He was born October 8, 1941 in Greenville, South Carolina. He graduated from the public schools in Greenville, enrolled in the University of Illinois on a football scholarship, and later transferred to North Carolina A&T State University, graduating in 1964. He then began his theological studies at the Chicago Theological Seminary, but deferred those studies when he began working full-time in the civil rights movement with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He was ordained on June 30th, 1968 by Reverend Clay Evans and received his Master of Divinity degree from the Chicago Theological Seminary in 2000. Reverend Jackson began his activism as a student in the summer of 1960, seeking to desegregate the local public library in Greenville, and then as a leader in the sit-in movement. In 1965, he began a full-time organizer for the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, also known as the SLLC. He was soon appointed by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to direct the Operation Breadbasket program. In December of 1971, Reverend Jackson founded Operation Push, People United to Serve Humanity, in Chicago, Illinois. The goals of Operation Push were economic empowerment and expanding educational, business, and employment opportunities for the disadvantaged and people of color. He has been called the conscience of the nation and the great unifier, challenging America to be inclusive and to establish just and humane priorities for the benefit of all. He is known for bringing people together on common ground across lines of race, culture, class, gender, and belief. So those are some words I'm reading about Reverend Jesse Jackson, who some of you are learning he passed away, and that is from the rainbowpush.org website. I'm going to return to our Talk of the Bay show today, which is going to be a deep dive into the life of Adam Scow. Some of you know him as a professional musician. Others of you might know him for his environmental activism, and yet others might know him in his work as a candidate for office and elected official. So I was motivated to interview him because most people know him from one of the domains of his life, but not all the different facets. How do you normally introduce yourself to people who don't know you?
Well, in a nutshell, I say I'm a musician, a teacher, and an environmental activist. I think that's, in a nutshell, might be a decent summary. But yeah, I've been doing a mix of those things for much of my life at the same time on different parallel tracks, sometimes overlapping, sometimes not. But it's made for a interesting life. I don't like to be bored, I guess.
Okay. You like to keep your brain active. That's great. So maybe one question to start off with is, could you tell us about your after school program, El Sistema? And I've heard it's great. So yeah, I'd love to know all about it.
So if anybody doesn't know, I am a professional violinist. I've been playing violin since I was 6 years old. And I've been playing through it at a pretty high level for most of my life. And I wasn't really interested in teaching until recent years. When the pandemic hit, I knew I wanted to do more music in my life. Up to that, it had been a passion and a hobby, but it wasn't really a source of income and work for me. And I had some friends who were running music academies around Watsonville and Hollister. And at the same time, I also got interested in mariachi music, which I now do as well. And I was offered opportunities to teach younger students who wanted to learn violin, and I just went with it because I respected and admired the work of my colleagues who were doing this teaching, and also their ability to perform. I knew they were real musicians, great musicians. And so that led me into doing a lot of teaching now. I teach now 4 days a week, primarily in after-school programs in Watsonville through the Pajaro Valley Unified School District, which hosts the program. But I work for a nonprofit called El Sistema, Santa Cruz / Pajaro Valley. El Sistema here is inspired by a national program in Venezuela. Wow, what a country to talk about.
Wow.
Where they have government-sponsored music programs for low-income, at-risk youth all over Venezuela. And it's been wonderfully successful. And it's actually produced world-class musicians, which is why it's famous. But music education is super important because it teaches kids discipline, how to socialize, how to be friends, how to listen to each other, how to work at something. And so I feel very lucky and very rewarded to be able to do that with kids in Watsonville, where I teach orchestral strings, violin, viola, cello, and I also run a youth mariachi program there as well, which is growing and becoming more successful. So I've been doing that for about 4 years now with this program. And we have about 60, 70 kids in the program. And I teach from beginners to our more intermediate to our more advanced students, and also the mariachi program. And now I'm also recently teaching at Cabrillo too. I'm now the mariachi teacher at Cabrillo as well. So it's very rewarding, and it's been super great for the kids.
Thank you for that. You said you're kind of getting more into teaching in the last few years. What's that part of your brain that is like educating versus focusing on your own performance? What's that shift like?
Well, now I do both. I think when I was younger, I needed to work on more my craft and becoming a better performer. And also I wasn't just emotionally ready to teach. I didn't have interest in it until now. I'm in my early 40s. And so the last 5 years, something has now allowed me to appreciate, be more patient, and find it rewarding to teach youth and share my knowledge. And much of what I've been able to do is because of the great teachers I had at all levels, and not just my music teachers, but also my in school. And so I guess that's, giving back, but it's I don't necessarily, it's not just a duty. It's a real sense of fulfillment to be able to help kids learn something, but also build relationships with them, because it's not, people often think about music and arts just as talent and skill. And while that's a big part of it, all of the kids, regardless of their talent level, benefit immensely. The social aspects of it, the discipline aspects. In music, you have to learn how to listen to others who you're playing with and to yourself.
Oh, listen to yourself.
You have to listen to yourself. If you're singing or playing an instrument, to correct and to make sure we're playing together in time. I'm not playing too loud, or if I'm playing something out of tune. And so it really heightens your own self-awareness and your awareness of others. And then you actually have to treat people decently with respect. And this goes for adults. One of my favorite things to do as an adult is to play chamber music, classical chamber music, string quartets, where we all have to negotiate in a positive way how we want to approach the piece. It's my favorite thing to do, even more than orchestra. Orchestra is great because of the power, and some of the pieces are profound. Orchestra is more of, we're factory workers. That's not a beautiful analogy, but there's a boss, the conductor, and the conductor usually sets the approach to the music. And when the conductors can be great, and I've learned a lot from them too. But in chamber music, we, the performers, the workers, work together to produce something beautifully, and we do it bring in our own ideas. And so we have to respect each other and listen to each other. And that's something I try to instill in my students as well. If you're a jerk, if you're an ass, people are going to want to play with you. And that's sometimes a helpful lesson, a needed lesson for youth and people who are too cocky and have an attitude. And so all these things are at play every day in our classes, which are about 3 hours long. And so we grow, our kids grow, the teachers grow. We're a team of about 4 or 5 people, and we grow together, and we have fun along the way. 3
hours is a long time for kids, for an adult or a child to concentrate. That itself is remarkable.
Yeah, we take breaks and we mix it up, work on rhythm, work on different aspects of the instrument. And it is important to break it down and also try to figure out the energy levels every day. Sometimes people are exhausted. You know, our students are in Watsonville, and sometimes they have to wake up at 5 a.m., 6 a.m. to go to school. They have schools that start at 7:30 a.m., ungodly hour. And our kids are walking in the door sometimes at 3:30 p.m. and they've had a long day
Already, yeah.
But they're so happy to be there. Nevertheless, they still are able to give an effort. And sometimes I know for some of our students, it's a favorite part of the day to be in our music program. So we just had our semester concert 2 nights ago, Wednesday night at the EA Hall Auditorium. It was great. We had 3 different orchestras depending on the level. Small orchestras, a wind ensemble, and the mariachi group I help coach. And it was really great, really positive. And so that's the after school program there at PVUSD has been successful, and I got to give them compliments for sponsoring and enriching our students, because it's open to any student who can get to EA Hall. It's a public program. They just got to get there, and that's not always easy for some families.
It's a what program?
It's an enrichment. After school program located at EA Hall. And so the key is if the child can get there. And as you know, PVUSD, Pajaro Valley Unified School District, it's a big area from Las Lomas to Aptos. And but it's a wonderful thing. And so I've been doing that to help. Also, it's a source of income for me. So and that's been it's been great to do that. And I still perform. I play with Santa Cruz Symphony. I have my own mariachi band called Mariachi Libertad. And I'm now teaching the class at Cabrillo as of August, which is a great place to be. Cabrillo College is just a great cross-section of our community throughout Santa Cruz County. I'm trained as a classical musician, and I've really immersed myself in mariachi the last 6 years. And I'm just so happy to see how many people love this music. Now I'm half Mexican, in case anybody didn't know, but I'd never really heard a great live mariachi band growing up in Fresno. They're mostly based in the San Jose area, is what I've come to learn.
I didn't know that.
And when I came to Watsonville full-time 6-7 years ago, when I heard Javier Vargas, who's the famous old mariachi boss there, sing, and some of his other members, I was like, wow, now I get why people really love this music. And I went to him, and to make a long story short, I joined his band about 4 or 5 years ago and started playing gigs all over the region, because that's the life of a mariachi. Every Saturday, mariachis drive all over our region, 5, 6 bands a day. That's primarily the main income day, Saturday and Sunday. And it was very humbling and inspiring, because mariachi, when families hire mariachi bands, it's usually for a special occasion, a birthday, a quinceañera, sometimes a funeral, a wedding, and it's a big deal for the family. And and mariachi bands are not cheap. And whereas on the classical music side, which is often sponsored, the concerts and education is more associated with wealthier people, which is largely true. Our mariachi clients were very humble working class families. This was from the call. And so I was playing on driveways in apartment complexes, 3, 4, and it was the biggest deal. They were so happy. So so it's been a great experience for me, and the music is truly beautiful. And so I encourage folks who, if you want to discover it, come check out our Cabrillo concert. We're going to have a mariachi festival concert where I'm going to be hosting local youth bands from the area, Watsonville, but all over. And then the Cabrillo class will play as well, which is a mix of people of all ages and all races from all over our county.
Oh, when is that happening?
That's going to happen, I believe it's Sunday, April 26th or 27th.
Okay.
And maybe we'll do some. And then my band will play at the end too, which is a professional level band. So that's what I've been doing musically in the region.
What have you learned by playing mariachi on the weekends? Because you said it's very humbling, right? And you're classically trained. violinist. So,
well, it's humbling in the sense that I don't know if I'm using humble. Maybe if humble is the right word, but the gratitude and the respect on the music and my role as a musician in helping build community and serve community at all levels, different cultures, different income levels, and so that's a good feeling as an artist, as a musician, because that's one of the most powerful things that music does, is it brings people together, and sometimes different music genres do, whether it resonate more strongly certainly with our Mexican American population, especially the older generations. And so just making those connections, and as a teacher and as a musician, I don't see a huge difference between what I'm doing classically or doing the mariachi level. I understand the musical differences and nuances, and there's layers of complexity, but a lot of mariachi music is based on a Western scale. It's a blend of indigenous Mexican culture and European influence, like all of us who are Mexican, frankly, most of us. And culturally, that's a beautiful thing. And I've also learned a lot from musically, and it's also made me a better classical musician as well, because in trying to create certain sounds and the styles, you become even more aware of what I'm doing in order to connect and create that right sound.
That's really interesting that you're talking about what it means to be of service as an artist, as a musician, and making impact like the priority in that medium.
Yeah.
So,
well,
yeah.
to be in my take and my sense, and I think it's would resonate with a lot of listeners. When you're moved by music and by artists, a great artist, musician, has to bring himself, herself to the performance. It's not just a robotic, physical, reproduction. That's not what makes music moving. And so that's. You have to be. I have to be moved if you're going to be moved by it. And so, and then the mariachi repertoire, so many things are expressed, whether it's love, heartbreak, nostalgia, pride, sometimes a celebration, party, dance, and so all those things can come in one gig. We're playing different songs that represent different of those themes, and so that's being able to represent that and deliver that, changing literally from song to song sometimes, is actually a cool challenge.
I think definitely artists are at times giving voice to feelings that people might not be able to articulate otherwise. Like, oh, I didn't know I had that feeling. Like, I used to think I was very in touch with my feelings, but now I know better. And I'm like, oh, I have no idea what my feelings are. And it's so rich, or it's so fulfilling when you encounter a piece of art, whether it's music or painting or so on, that actually conveys how you feel. Because maybe we don't all individually, we might not have the skills to give voice to those feelings. So
yeah, it reflects life.
Yeah,
in its own way. Yeah.
Well, I did start off this conversation by saying you have all these different identities through which people might know you, and I want to ask you about what environmentalism means to you, because you have a huge body of work dedicated to that.
Yeah, well, that's a great question, and I've been working on environmental issues for 20 years. I grew up in a civically engaged family in Fresno. My grandfather was a farm worker from Oaxaca, Mexico. My mom was born there, emigrated at a very young age. My grandfather worked in Watsonville, Salinas, all over these parts as a bracero farm worker, a government-sponsored program to bring young men from Mexico to work all over the West, millions, to grow the agricultural economy. And we can get into a longer history of farm workers. They weren't the first farm workers, as I just used that word either. There's labor reasons why that happened. And so I grew up in the Fresno area, and my mom and her siblings were the first in their family to go to college. And the cost of living in California, for our older listeners, know how much cheaper it was to live in these parts. Fresno, Santa Cruz, but even Fresno was even cheaper. And my father was a public school teacher from the East Coast originally, mixed European descent. And my mother became a teacher and was into outdoor science. They met at an outdoor science education camp, literally, by Kings Canyon National Park.
Wow.
So, I mean, I guess when I tell the story that way, nothing is... And my dad came from a musical family. That's why... And my mom wanted me to play the violin, so that's how that happened. But they were civically engaged, and we were in touch with what was going on at Fresno's City Hall. And my dad was a big bike rider and was really concerned about transportation and things like that. So he just kind of taught me how to think and be skeptical, I think, and to inquire and to try to understand why things were and why things weren't certain ways. So that's just kind of a progressive skepticism that I was raised with. And also the thing to know about Fresno and the Central Valley is it is a very polluted place.
I was going to say, yeah.
It has some of the worst air quality. And I remember seeing that Fresno County was always in the top 10 for the worst air quality. The 5-6 counties in the Central Valley are always in the top 10 for the worst air quality in the country. And 1 out of every 5 kids, it might be even higher now, has asthma in the Central Valley. And there's all sorts of particulate pollution, pesticides on top of that. And it's in a flat, the Central Valley is flatter than Kansas. All that pollution just sits. And it gets into our lungs. And all sorts of health problems come from that. So that was also on my mind, but also... When you drive through the Central Valley, you see all the agriculture, all the farmland. And for a young person, as I was, it's not exciting. It's kind of boring.
Okay.
Most people think, there's associated with boredom and crime and poverty. Unfortunately, those things are true. And so that was not, in high school, that's not what I was thinking about, environmentalism per se. I was like, how do I get out of here? And so I was a good student. I was fortunate to go to a good public high school, and I went to UC Berkeley and studied political science, thinking I might be a lawyer someday. But then as I got into Cal, and I realized that the folks on that track were a little bit different than me. But as you're hearing, I've always had a variety of interests, and so I pursued those interests. I played ultimate frisbee at a very high level as well, and finally did some sports in my life. And but to make this sense of this story, I came back to civics kind of as I went through it. Like that was been my motivation, how to be involved with public policy and government, and not to just be a rich lawyer or obsessed with career. And that's kind of why I got off that track. And I had a great time at Berkeley. I learned a ton from not only my teachers, but especially the students, my peers. And so as I got to my senior year, I knew I wanted to be involved with government, public policy. And after I graduated, I went to D.C. and I had a fellowship working on budget issues. And I was like a lot of people who watch the news, you get fascinated with war and foreign policy, and because that's often on the news. And some of us were thinking, well, why are we spending all that money on that war there? What good is that coming? And coming of that, when we have so many problems here at home. And so that was kind of on my mind when I went to DC. But when I got there, they said, well, we want you to you're from California and we know you're from the Central Valley. We want you to look at agricultural policy. And that made sense to them. And I was like, huh? So I did. And they got me looking at water issues and how California has the most extensive waterway systems in the world to move water from north to south, to east to west, to build these empires. And who benefits, who pays, the cost to the environment, that got me pretty hooked. And so ever since that experience, I've been on water issues. And when you deal with water issues, you deal with everything. You deal with agricultural policy. You deal with land use policy. Where are we building our cities? You deal with river issues, the salmon dying off. You deal with who's paying for all this. Both the federal and state government, there are two huge projects that have built massive dams. So you think of Shasta Dam, Oroville Dam, to move water to build agricultural empires in the Central Valley, primarily, and to move water to fuel Southern California's growth. And at what cost and to what extent are those systems unsustainable? So that got me into that. And soon thereafter, I took a job as the first California hire for a group called Food and Water Watch. Food and Water Watch is an offshoot of Public Citizen. Public Citizen was founded by Ralph Nader, and Ralph Nader was also somebody who was an inspiration in my family, the way he took on government corruption and fought for a concept we call public interest. So that's kind of more how I try to see my work in life is about public interest. It captures a bunch of issues. So I was at Food and Water Watch for about 13 years. I became the state director. I had a team of 7 people at the end. We were working on water issues, we were at the forefront of the campaign to ban fracking, which is what brought me, one of the reasons that brought me to the Central Coast. The water issues, even before it, had me working here in Felton back in 2006. And so that's the quick overview of my environmental, and I guess to finish it or to bring it to present day, that's what inspired me and others to found the Campaign for Organic and Regenerative Agriculture, CORA, which is taking on the problem of toxic pesticides right around the city of Watsonville, right by our schools, and calling on Driscoll's and other companies to transition those fields to organic. So that's that in a long nutshell. Sorry.
Well, it sounds like it's almost like you almost didn't have a choice, but to become an environmentalist because of the way, say, your parents met, and also your pivotal experiences in education, and it sounds like you fell in love with all things related to water because of that Washington, D.C. experience. It's kind of interesting how people discount sort of their origin story and just kind of like their lived experience. It's like, oh, you mean you would appreciate my lived experience as I conduct research, right? I'm assuming it was a ton of research.
Yeah.
And that became an entire, I guess, foundation for like intellectual development and civic engagement.
Absolutely. And policy and research, I love that. And when you're in D.C., when I was in D.C., you pick up on how the game works there, on the lobbyist game. There's a place literally outside of one of the chambers of Congress called Gucci Gulch, where all the top lobbyists hang out. And it's a small town once you're there, like in every place. And you see the cronyism, the corruption, how it's commonplace, normalized. And what I began to figure out as a young person is that being right and correct is only so influential. In fact, it's unfortunately not that influential. It's not the same thing as political power.
Right.
And so I was writing articles, and I got exposure writing media pieces, which I like to do, uncovering things. And as long as the other side had all the money, had the influence, helped elect the people there, we were barking up an immense hill. And so that's one of the reasons why I didn't want to stay in D.C. and instead wanted to be in what we say in the field, meaning in communities, trying to mobilize, get people educated, and to put pressure on their elected officials that way, because that's the only chance in a democracy when we have so much money, and money is mischaracterized now as free speech, and so that means it means bribery. We have a legalized system of bribery. And so, and given how this economy has gotten more and more, the rich have gotten more and more rich and fewer, and we have more and more people with less money, the only thing that can counter that is getting people active and putting pressure on their elected officials in their districts in the field. So that was kind of what was driving me, guiding me in terms of my own energy. and just also, I mean, it's my personality as well. And kind of, so that's what brought me back to California, and also just missing the climate, the great things that we have here. I mean, it's the most beautiful place in the world in some ways, in many ways. And so that brought me back. And so at Food and Water Watch, I took on water issues, and I was assigned to help track the water privatization problem, which brought me right here to Felton and to Monterey, where most utilities, water utilities in the state, are publicly owned. It's about 80% publicly owned. You have these small little private ones, but then you have a couple utilities. One of them was called California American Water Company, a subsidiary of a company in New Jersey called American Water, a private investor-owned utility, I believe traded on the market. And the years prior, this is back to 2006 when I was tracking it, they were bought by a German multinational firm called RWE, which came in with the intent of jacking up the rates and making as much money, the way PG&E does on the energy side, by the way. We'll get into that another time. So Felton was looking at a water rate increase of 100 to 200%, as was Monterey, and it led to an amazing community revolt and organizing, which led to ultimately Felton deprivatizing the water system and annexing their water system to the San Lorenzo Valley Water District. It took 5 years. People like Barbara Sprenger were at the forefront of that. And it was an amazing community organizing effort that was won by, if not one or two, it might have been two ballot area-wide votes where people walked their neighbors, their canvas 3 times.
I didn't hear I did not know anything about this.
This was back in 06, yeah. And so that got me into, that was my, and then Monterey is still dealing with this problem of Cal-Am still owning their water system. They pay some of the highest water rates in the country there. And I've been involved with that effort as well on stopping a privatized desalination plant to be built in Marina, where the old CEMEX plant is, which is entirely unnecessary. Monterey has some of the lowest water per capita use in the country, but would be a huge financial boondoggle ripoff for the company. For the ripoff for the people, boondoggle for the company. And so these fights, when you have these they take years,
right,
to succeed when they do succeed, and so that, and then later on down the line, Food and Water Watch became the national leader on fighting fracking. The natural gas industry was promoting fracking as a healthy alternative to coal. And they were giving groups, Michael Bloomberg, who was a big investor, gave the Sierra Club millions of dollars to go neutral. Other groups were getting lots of money.
Terrible.
And so Food and Water Watch was great because we were pretty financially independent in comparison with some of these big environmental groups. Yeah. And community groups all over the country were like, we can't have this. And there's great documentary films called Gasland that are famous about fracking, and community groups all over Pennsylvania, New York, and then here in California came to us, said help. And so Food and Water Watch became, it was a part of the master plan, the leader on fighting fracking. In New York, we actually won the campaign and persuaded Andrew Cuomo. It took a primary challenge by a woman named Zephyr Teachout. She primaried him and beat him in a lot of upstate. Didn't win the race, but demonstrated the proof. And then after that, even though Cuomo won, he didn't win by as much as he thought he was going to win. And this is a guy who's like, oh, maybe he's a president. He then banned fracking. And
Wow.
It was a big win. So that's. And then here in California, I worked with local groups here in Monterey County, San Benito County, and I worked with Supervisor John Leopold to ban fracking here in Santa Cruz County in 2014 when we were getting calls that they were doing tests at the Granite Rock facility in Aromas. And then Monterey County actually has a major oil field run by Chevron in the south part of the county called the San Ardo oil field. They just had a nasty, huge oil wastewater spill, by the way, so people can look up, which is the forefront of the Salinas River. And the campaigns in Monterey County and San Benito County, where the Pinnacles is located, where an oil company from Southern California wanted to put 100 wells right by Pinnacles National Park, those were ballot measures where Chevron and the oil industry spent millions of dollars. And we won the community group. We beat them with just dedicated hard work organizing.
Wow.
And there's so many great leaders who participated, and they had help from Santa Cruz activists as well. So those went down in 2014 and 2016. So that got me further immersed in the region. And so that's been my background on environmental issues, on some of the big environmental issues here. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you, Adam. There are so many things that, and I must confess, I'm not always on, or I'm not always aware of what's going on environmentally speaking. And I guess one could argue that is the most important thing for people to stay aware of. So,
well, I mean, it's hugely important. Some people are having a hard time paying the bills and surviving financially here. And so if that's your situation, making ends meet, as it is for more and more people in California, which has one of the highest poverty rates. Yeah, people want to say everything's so great here. Let's reality check. If you have money, it is. Or the boomer generation. My parents are boomers. It's their financial outlook is very different. They were born at a very different time in American history, as a lot of people who might be listening to this right now, and so they were blessed to be there. Most of us who are younger generations are financially in a much different place.
I was just going to say, some of what you're talking about, whether it's privatization of water or extraction of oil in Monterey County, these are things which also affect consumers to a huge degree. And that actually makes it less and less likely for people just to afford to be able to live because of the ability to exercise kind of almost like a monopoly-like power over energy utilities or things like water. These are very essential resources for living. So I see that these issues of economic viability and the environment, they are intertwined.
And let's just talk about a word, utilities. Another way of saying the essential things for life in our society. Water, energy are fundamental. And the water situation in our region depends where you are. In Santa Cruz, it looks pretty good right now. In Watsonville, there is a groundwater overdraft problem. It's even worse in Salinas Valley right now. So water is by watershed. And we don't have imported water here from the major water projects I was talking about, which is going to be a constraint on growth. And some people don't like that, but I believe in respecting the realities of watersheds. I don't think it's a good idea to bring 1 million people here. I don't think we can support that. Even though the weather's perfect and the real estate industry could make a ton of money off it, I don't see how that's going to happen. And so utilities, water, energy, communications, transportation, the price of the PG&E bills, the energy, have gotten through I know people have closed small businesses because they can't afford it. In my view, most civilized countries, those things are all public, are publicly owned. They're not privately owned for profit because they're too important and too critical for a society to succeed. And I'm very concerned with what we're seeing with PG&E and the prices and the assault on rooftop solar. Which is now being expressed in these new battery storage facilities. I know that's another topic, but this is the utilities, in my view, philosophically, should be publicly owned and accountable to the public.
Thank you. So another part of the Adam Scow experience is that of being an elected official, public official, and so I would be remiss, and you've touched on a little bit of, I guess, your public service and the other topics we've covered, but what does public service mean to you?
For me, it flows naturally out of what I was working on these issues regarding the environment, public interest, society. The reason why I decided to run, and I first ran for Congress, I primaried Jimmy Panetta, Leon Panetta's son, in the 2020 election, is that if there's no competition, if there's no progressives, that's what I'm often pigeonholed. Well, okay, we'll go with that. If there's no progressives running on a really agenda to make our society better, then the incumbents never feel any competition. Then when people hear, oh, let's go lobby them, or let's even get a phone bank them, call them. If there's no competition, then there's no pressure to deliver. I get a lot of compliments from people who said, Adam, when you ran, all these things that he was ignoring us on, even like city governments, Watsonville, where all phone calls were returned, money came.
Oh, really?
You know this big nasty flood we had?
Yes.
You know that problem's been going in Pájaro, where all these people were destroyed. All these pesticides, by the way, came in and poisoned a lot of the area, the houses. That issue has been ignored for 30, 40, 50 years. And when I was running, I'm not going to mention some of the elected officials who said, we're not getting anywhere with this, Adam, and I'm glad you're running, but I can't endorse you because I'm too close to the, I'm worried about retribution, which is real. And then like 2 months later, they announced, they have a grant to finally study that. And I'm like, this is how it works. And did I get any credit for that publicly? Of course not. But it feels good knowing that I helped make things happen. Now, the tragedy of that is it was too little too late in terms of the recent floods, because this problem had been ignored for years and decades and decades. And that's a very sad story. So the important thing is to have people running. And I didn't take any corporate money. I ran on a progressive agenda around healthcare for all, stopping these ridiculous wars, the affordability crisis, the climate crisis. I used to say we have a climate crisis, and we have two crises. We have an affordability crisis that threatens to push us out of this region, and a climate crisis that threatens to push us off this earth. And it was interesting to see how they reacted. They ran a push poll, and then they started copying my agenda. They just said, we're for everything Adam's for. It was that interesting. And so I wish it was true, but it was the marketing was effective, but the record is. And so the words and promises, the story are not what people need to look at. They need to look at the record. What are these people working at every level? City council, school board, county supervisor, state assembly, state senator, member of Congress. These are all our most locally accessible politicians. And people might be listening, like, that's a lot to track. Yes, it kind of is, but this is the deal with democracy. If we're going to have one, we have to actively participate and know what these people are doing and what they're not doing. I'm a sports fan. If people who are listening and know sports fan, love the Warriors, love the Giants, you'll listen to people cite off statistics about shooting percentages, batting averages, injury reports. People are putting time. If people could put a little fraction of that energy into what these politicians are doing or not doing, sometimes it's not what they're doing, it's what they're just not doing, ignoring, then, and putting the pressure on them, remembering these people are supposed to serve us and make our community better. Everything is political. People have an idea about politics and they think it's bad, or they just think about the president. No, the root of politics, I believe it's a Greek word. It's like police, the same word as police. It's community. Everything is everything is community. Everything is people. And so that kind of awareness, participation, that's what's needed. And unfortunately, even in our area, we have a lot of uncontested elections. And the sad thing, the dangerous thing is people get turned off by politics, and there's a lot of negative things happening in the world right now, obviously. And we even see the economic pressures of this region forcing out a lot of low-income, middle-income people here, and that's definitely happened in the last 10 years on the California coast. It makes people, it can have the risk of being too jaded is that it gets people to turn off, and that just compounds the problem. So the reason I decided to run is because I realized I would only get so far as an advocate / organizer. If nobody's running at the same time, and then I believe that I could actually be an effective messenger to some extent too. And people had told me that too. For years, you should run, Adam, you should run. And I said, no, that's dirty. That's where it gets corrupt. But I'm like, well, if nobody with integrity runs, that's how it stays dirty forever. And so there's a lot of people listening to your radio station who have integrity, have similar values to I think myself, and want our country or want our society to be better, and they will say, I'll never run. Well, that's part of the problem. If you're retired and listening and you're financially stable, I think you're a great candidate. Sometimes we hear retired older people do, well, what about the youth? When are the youth going to rise up? Well, the youth are busy trying to survive in this economic situation. If you have stability and if hopefully you have wisdom, if you're older, not everybody has wisdom, but if you've learned from experience, that's a great thing to bring. We need don't we want to believe that as we get older, we learn? Right. And we get better in life as we learn from things. Does anybody think, oh, when I was 18, I really did know everything, and now I'm dumber now and less experienced? No. So if you're older and you're listening, we need you to be involved. And it's nothing wrong with you running just because you think it's politically incorrect or not dirty, a la mode, or it's supposed to be a young person. I'm telling you, there's people looking at elections around here and like nobody wants to run.
Right. Don't count yourself out.
Don't count yourself out.
Don't be ageist against yourself.
That's right. No. This is about good judgment, integrity. If you have experience in government, business, or anything in our community, that's something valuable. I guarantee sometimes people will count themselves out. Well, I don't have enough experience. Well, I'm telling you, that a lot of the people there in office, they don't have it either. And they're being told what to do by somebody else who just wants things as they are to continue.
I think a lot of times people look at our electoral system and they think, okay, well, what does, there's no chance I have of winning, then like, what's the point? But using yourself or Zephyr Teachout as an example, when she was primarying Andrew Cuomo, these are things people might not be aware of. Like, you can actually, that's another way to impact an agenda when we do have a winner take all sort of system.
Yes.
Right. So our system is different from, say, other places which have like a parliamentary system where you have coalitions
better
among
systems
the elected. Yeah, they have arguably better systems.
Even Woodrow Wilson said that. Yeah.
But so even in our system, it sounds like there are strategies we can employ to sort of clip at the heels or affect the agenda, or you're saying when you were running, phone calls were returned and like all of a sudden people found pockets of money. So what was that like to observe that, given your your jaded point of view, right? Because you said, you weren't that, you were thinking, it's dirty, it's this, it's that. But when you actually experienced the changes you saw, what was that like for you?
When I said I wasn't, as an activist, I wasn't jaded then. I was saying I'm going to be a pure activist and just stay on the outside.
Got it.
Trying to influence the inside.
Okay.
But then I said, well, no, I have to make an effort to be in government because not enough people are doing it to actually make the point hit home. And so that's why it's important. Whatever it is that what you care about deeply, whether it's housing, environment, whatever it is, homelessness, and this is a housing issue and it's an economic issue, it's a wage issue. If you care about that and you're also thoughtful enough to think about, well, this could be better, and there are solutions to some of these things, and how we use our money, because what these elected officials do is they're managing our money. These are our public budgets. This is why it's so important. You can't check out. That's your money, your tax dollars. They're deciding on how to use it, and so if you care about that, then being involved. I mean, going to meet, finding out what's going on, what they're doing, what they're not doing, but even if, and if you know of others who are involved, it's worth considering running for office. Even if you don't think you're going to win, but if you're going to make a specific point on an agenda about a problem and to really it's worth doing.
Wow, really?
Of course it's worth doing, because that proves you care about it, and it proves to others and it shows like, hey, this person cares enough about it that they're actually trying to do something about it, and that's inspiring. That's important. Sometimes I hear boomers say, they throw their hands up, well, I'm just going to enjoy the rest of my life. Well, what does that mean? Like just going to Hawaii every year and just chill? I mean, you can still go to Hawaii now and then too. I mean, if you're civically engaged, you're probably listening to the show. You're probably listening to K-Squid. You've never thought about, but thinking about running for office is super important, and it's not, because you care about something that much. It's not some personal vanity power grab. That's probably why you're turned off by it, because you see everybody involved like, it's just their personal event. It's all about their story. Everybody, it's their story. They're the first. What's the power? Well, that's why you should think about running, because if you got the integrity and honesty to say, well, no, it's not about me. It's about the needs of our community. And so that people need to start thinking a little bit. And I know they might not see themselves that way, or maybe it's a personal inconvenience. But I'm saying, if you're financially stable, you should think about that. For city council, school board, we need decent, honest people who aren't power hungry, who are not thinking about politics as a career for them. So retired people, if you're listening, please think about it.
Are you going to give out your phone number so that people can blow up your phone and ask for advice and guidance as candidates?
You can email me. You can email me at adam.scow@gmail.com.
Oh my goodness. You heard it right here on K-Squid. Adam Scow. It's open season for guidance. So please, people, blow up his email. And yeah. So have you guided? I mean, you have, I think, I know that you have guided people, but
encouraged people.
Yeah, you've encouraged people.
I've been encouraged.
How do you encourage people to run for office?
Well, you have to.
In addition to giving out your email on the air.
How do you do it? It's persuasion. Persuasion is persuasiveness. Persuasion is the currency of a clean democracy. What is the problem with our democracy? If it gets corrupted by money and power, and primarily money and those who have it. For those of us who aren't going to just buy each other out, I actually have to convince you. I have to use words, logic, and I have to respect you enough to try to convince you. If I just look down on you or just put you in, everybody creates these partisan ideas in their head about who's good, who's bad, who's on my side, especially local government. Let that go. Try to actually meet people and listen to people too. Actually listen. People will tell you their problems, and then you'll actually find maybe there's more common ground, or maybe there's an ability to persuade. So trying to persuade people is super important, and it's practice, and it helps develop your social skills too, your listening and your ability to talk. So a lot of folks here might be doing that in different social circles. Connecting with different social circles, getting a little bit outside of the comfort zone is part of the art of being in government. And that's not easy. It's not always fun. Sometimes it's headbanging, but that's the art of being, I think, a good public official. You have to meet with everybody, even people you think you disagree with. That's part of the deal. But connecting and persuading people, recruiting people. So I was recruited. I've recruited other people. But it's nothing wrong with if believing in yourself and checking in with your community. Say, hey, I'm thinking about this. Check in with your friends, check in with your family, check in with your peers. I really care about this issue. I don't think our city's handling it well. I don't think our school board is handling it well. I don't think the county is doing enough about this. I think I can here's my ideas. I'm thinking about this. Even if you're not going to, just putting it out there. Maybe you find somebody else who can. Maybe there's somebody, so that's essential for a democracy to be functional and healthy.
You make it almost sound like fun, right? Because you're saying earlier, like people, they get turned off by the negativity, and it sounds like getting people to appreciate their own integrity and honesty and their, I guess, wholesomeness.
And recognizing your self-value, your ideas, whatever expertise, people listening, they have expertise in something and they know people with other expertise. Recognizing the value in yourself and your own ability to bring something positive to government is super important. Yet, so people are like, where should I feel hopeful about? Where's the hope? I mean, that comes from you. Well, what are you doing? What are you working on? How can you get involved with something? Turn off the TV. You're not going to affect DC right now, that's a good way. It's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy to people's like, oh, well, fascism is coming. Fascism. Well, get involved with your local democracy. That's where it starts.
Absolutely.
I mean, we've had censorship at some of our school districts. I mean, we've had some of these characteristics in previous years. 20 years ago, the school district told the teachers not to say anything about pesticides. Don't even say the word.
What?
This was PVUSD.
Don't say the word
pesticides because they would accept the big growers, and they give us money, and you're going to get... I mean, so...
I heard somebody was mentioning to me, people still hate Dolores Huerta because of her activities way long ago. I'm like, wait, you still hold that against her?
Who holds it against who?
That some agricultural interests, they still hate on Dolores Huerta. I'm like,
well, yeah, that's
oh my
money.
gosh.
I mean, that's because she was trying to build a labor union that would make it more economically fair. So if you're greedy and all you care about is maximizing profit, unions are dangerous. Yeah, and they'll demonize, and that unites big business in this country across. And so, and that's the agricultural sector. The agricultural companies, the big companies, are very hierarchical, and you see at the bottom farm workers, mostly immigrants, who are doing some of the hardest work. And that's been that way for a long time, by the way. And the sad, frustrating thing is how that system continues. A system where immigrants are systemically recruited to come work in the fields, face low wages, and now skyrocketing high. I mean, they're at the bottom of the poverty cycle, so the housing costs hit them the hardest. And they're dealing with the most impact of pesticides. So pesticides affect everybody. These things drift for miles, but they're the most impacted. And these companies some of them are worth billions of dollars, exporting all over the world. And so this is how this cycle perpetuates itself. And so, we're talking about running for office and things like that. So,
yeah, you were saying, hey, focus on your local democracy, because we have all the issues that people want to see nationally. You have them right here. Right, and you were talking about not being able to say the word pesticide. Like teachers were not.
This is 20 years ago.
Yeah,
yes.
But so I'm not sure. I guess that's the other thing. Of course, one great thing about K-Squid and community radio is that we can actually educate everyone in a way that is not possible if you're worried about selling commercials for this or that business and so on, and you only have like 30 seconds or 1 minute for like a so-called human interest story. You can't get any depth, right?
Yeah.
And I think people, they don't realize there's censorship here, or there are big battles. Yeah, people self-censor.
They're afraid of retaliation in their businesses. Here. And absolutely. Or and the way these companies work, they give a lot of money. Driscoll's gives a ton of money to nonprofits, government agencies, which is nice, and so a lot of those nonprofits do good work, but it doesn't justify the ongoing use of toxic, cancer-causing pesticides right by our schools and right by our neighborhoods in Watsonville. And so that's why we're specific. At Cora, we're asking them to transition about 15 fields. It's a very modest request when you think about a $4 or $5 billion company operating all over the world. The berries are going all over the world, and they're also operating in Mexico, China, Australia, Morocco, I just learned. It's a very modest request, and we've been getting more and more support for that. Just on that subject, it's super important that folks in Santa Cruz get involved with us, because Santa Cruz County is one of the birthplaces of modern organics as a USDA organic standard. You see Santa Cruz, farmers in Corralitos, people here want to eat organic because they're concerned about pesticides.
Absolutely.
Do you know what? There's organic fields very close to fields using toxic pesticides in Watsonville. Unfortunately, that is legal. There should be a way bigger buffer zone between organic fields and pesticide fields. And there's a bunch of wonderful organic farmers who our community loves to support in the Watsonville Pajaro Valley area. But we have way too many pesticides down there, and in particular, it's the berries. The berries use the most and the worst. The gases, other chemicals, glyphosate. There's a long list of toxins that are banned by the organic standard. And while the organic standard is not perfect, by any means. And sometimes big companies want to weaken it and corrupt it, by the way. So this has also been the fight in organics. It's still super important because it's not just an opinion, it's a legal standard that the companies have to follow. And when they certify organic, they hire a local certifier like CCOF or others to ensure. Yeah.
The California Certified Organic Farmer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we need, folks want to help us on that. They can go to farmworkerfamily.org. That's the Center for Farm Worker Families, kind of our sponsoring organization led by Dr. Ann Lopez, an amazing leader who's been fighting for farm workers in our area. She's got these amazing farm worker reality tours, and now we're doing pesticide reality tours next year.
Oh.
Where we'll take you to the schools and fields and you can see what's going on. And it's very eye-opening and shocking, and usually moves people to want to get involved. So caring about the health, the needs of the people in Watsonville, and also the integrity of our farmland, because it's needed to feed us healthy food.
Right, and we feed the rest of the nation. Like, we're certainly the salad bowl, so-called, of the United States, but also, right, I've traveled, like if I've traveled outside of the U.S., I could see, all kinds of agricultural products from this area. It's, shocking.
Just to touch on that mindset of grow as much as possible, as cheaply as possible, with as many chemicals as possible, is what's made that happen. It's not that you can't grow food in other parts of the country. They're more seasonally restrained because of their weather. We have such amazing weather here in farmland. We can grow such an abundance of it, like it's the perfect climate for berries, that we can flood
other areas,
the markets, and with big retail control, but grocery stores, Walmart, Amazon, Whole Foods, Amazon owns Whole Foods, Kroger, Safeway. It's like get big or get out. And that's what's made the chemical ag industry so powerful, unfortunately, because it's the get big, get out model is not really compatible with local, healthy, sustainable food. So the whole notion that it's like as if it was some kind of biblical reference, like it's our duty to feed the world, has led to this toxic chemical experiment that's continues to be perpetuated on the people of Watsonville, the Central Valley. Iowa has one of the few states with a rising cancer rate, where all the fertilizer and chemicals used in the overproduction of corn and soy is contaminating the groundwater and ending up in the Mississippi River too. So this get big, get out is, financially a windfall for the owners, but it's not sustainable. It's poisoning us, giving some of us cancer, and financially it's a very unfair system. It's a very top-down, pyramid-oriented system. But I'm pro-agriculture. We need people farming. We need to figure out how we can have more small farmers, and we have some great organic farmers who work very hard. Or no, they're not rich, but there's a passion, and it's so noble and such what a cause to our community. So a big shout out to all of our amazing organic farmers.
You were mentioning Dr. Ann Lopez, and certainly on K-Squid, different hosts have interviewed her at various times. So I'll be sure to add information about that in the show notes. And I also wanted to just say, with all the poisons you're mentioning, the pesticides and the other chemicals involved in conventional agriculture or non-organic agriculture, a lot of that is directly dependent on petrochemicals.
Yes.
So for people who are who are conscious of the fossil fuel economy and so on, I think that's something to be mindful about. Is organic agriculture is one of the tools to decrease our dependence on fossil fuels. So, yeah.
Absolutely. It's all tied together. And there's suggestions that helps sequester carbon, and we have amazing organic agriculture. As I've been saying, Lakeside Organics is one of the biggest organic farms in the state, based in Watsonville. Lakeside Organics. There's a restaurant called California Grill in Watsonville. It's like a diner with all organic vegetables, about 2,000 acres.
I didn't realize that all their vegetables were organic.
All 100% organic. And the family, they used to sell pesticides.
Oh, so what happened?
The owner was concerned about. He was no dummy. He knew about the pesticides, and he had kids going to schools.
Oh.
And he saw the success of other organic farmers, and he said, I'm going to try something. He went 100% organic 25 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
At Stick Pashot, and now they're the most successful organic company in the region. So that's a great success story. organics around the country are growing. It's a growing market. It's not some niche thing anymore. More and more people are concerned about and want organic food. So this is it's a battle for to hold this company accountable. Unfortunately, much of the pesticide law is stacked in favor of pesticides. Local counties used to have the ability to regulate pesticides. They no longer, now mostly controlled by the state. A bureaucracy called the Department of Pesticide Regulation, which is in part funded by pesticide sales. And
that sounds terribly wrong.
And the ag lobby is extremely powerful. We haven't even talked about the wonderful company and the Resnicks, the almond and pistachio empire that's sucking all the groundwater in Central California.
The pomegranate, palm wonderful.
Yeah, but it's the almonds and pistachios on that I-5 corridor that are sucking all the groundwater. Billionaires that give all sorts of money to every politician in California, and so Big Ag has had its way. Doesn't matter who the governor is, and that's why these environmental systems continue to be violated, whether it's on the oil side of things, the pesticide things, or even on the water, the over appropriation of water to these fields where all the chemicals are being used. So we need help in this effort. We think we have a chance of success because Driscoll's has organics too.
Right.
They're very
absolutely.
They're a very sophisticated big company.
Yeah.
And they say they're considering our request and someday maybe, but we need more and more people involved with this. So please visit thefarmworkerfamily.org, the Center for Farm Worker Families website, and there's a big Quora page there, and you can sign up, and we'd love your help.
Okay, so Adam, what's all our homework? You want people with integrity, you want them to email you and run for office. You want them to visit the Center for Farm Worker Families.
Absolutely.
And I think there was another website you wanted people to visit.
Check out the Cabrillo VAPA website. Shout out to one of my employers, Cabrillo College. It's got a lot of great things in the arts department for the community, whether it's jazz, Latin jazz, mariachi band, cool stuff happening there. Yeah, I think that's just think about what they care about locally and how they might get involved with enacting a solution, because we need more people thinking that way.
So I want to ask you about the whole people turning off because politics seems stressful or negative or so on. What's that emotional process of going beyond that reaction?
Well, I think part of the distraction, the manipulation from national media is just to get people only talking about the president. And boy, is he the master of media, if nothing else. Sells, literally, the media companies make money selling ads. People just trying to, what's the Trump news every Trump, big, bad, evil. Okay. And it's an addictive cycle where that's everybody wants to talk about. And it's not that it's unimportant. It obviously is important, and there's a lot of horrible things happening there. If that's what's driving you, you need to put the pressure on your member of Congress. It needs to be on Jimmy Panetta. That's your federal link. Yeah, absolutely. And your senators, but California is such a big state. The senators but that's where the pressure needs to go on there, because Panetta unfortunately, his mindset was always to compromise. Or that's his dad. His dad used to be a Republican. People don't know that. Leon Panetta used to be a Republican.
Oh, I forgot.
Yeah, and that's their mindset. Well, we just always have to cut and be and that's not. And that's led to some policy things I think are awful, especially on war, but on a lack of direction on affordability problems that we're all facing. So that's really what's driving you. You need to express that there.
So channel that negative, heavy feeling into action.
Channeled into action. But a lot of these issues, the affordability issues, there's also much more that our city and county could be doing. Our cities and county, we have 4 cities, right? In Santa Cruz, half of Santa Cruz County is unincorporated, right?
Right.
With 4 cities.
Scotts Valley, Capitola, Santa Cruz, Watsonville.
You got it. Yeah, and the county supervisors. So expressing, that's what people need to. What do you want from your government? This is what, unfortunately, the turnoff, like when you just are obsessed with what's going on in D.C., that's not usually where your brain goes, or it's just damage control. Well, it's always the least worst. Well, if that's all you ever think about, the least worst, avoiding the worst, which is unfortunately the game between national Republicans and Democrats right now, everything keeps moving towards corporate fascism, and it's very evident. I mean, so what is it that you want? What do we need as our community? What do we want? And what can we do? How can we start to demand that? Actually demand it. It's like, people like, these are public officials. The city, they're supposed to serve us. And you can't take it. You can't accept the fact that you can't just tell yourself, well, they're corrupt and it's corrupt and they're just doing the best they can. That's you're lowering the bar on yourself.
Well, it's kind of interesting to think about the relationship that people can have with, say, their elected officials or with other stakeholders in the community, and what you're saying about having these like really low standards of like, okay, I'll just settle. And I think of, not that I have a friend who says, oh man, you just think of everything in like romantic terms, but you know, you would hope that your friends don't end up with people who are just like the lowest, they're settling. Like, I'm sure all of us have friends who are like, oh my gosh, is that person still dating so and so? Like, what's up with that? As opposed to like, hey, you know, like, put yourself first, or like have high standards for who you want to be with. And when you're talking about, say, Jimmy Panetta, it's like, how many of us want to be dating Jimmy Panetta, right? Or like, or what, whoever it is, right? You would hope that people align themselves in a good way. Like, would you put up with somebody who never takes out the trash or never puts a toilet seat down? And so when you're talking earlier about these politicians are actually spending our money, so maybe one thing I'm learning from you in this conversation is we're already in a relationship. Maybe not a romantic one. Maybe it's more like, maybe the right paradigm is like, oh, like these elected officials are kind of already our roommates. And then they're, you know, it's like, oh my gosh, what happened? I had some cheese in the refrigerator. Somebody ate my cheese and now it's all gone. Would you just not say anything? Or you're like, hey, like, where's my cheese? Who ate my oatmeal? You're going to say something because you actually want the relationship to be better, right?
Yeah. Well, let me also say that American propaganda brainwashing leads people to blame themselves for all their problems, and to blame. And if other people have problems, they blame them and not look at the system we're in, and they just accept that. And that's how this entrapment gets worse and worse. Most of us have a lot more in common, especially if we're income brackets. So, you know, class is very important. Class is becoming the most, in terms of how to predict what our lives are like.
Absolutely.
And so we have way more in common, and many of us are struggling with the same things. And so we tend to blame ourselves or look for some kind of an individual escape plan. Even people thinking of leaving the country, I understand why, or how you can maximize your career. And those are important, worth thinking about. But in terms of, you know, our healthcare costs, our housing costs, all these things are systemic and could be improved if we had a better government. That's just a fact. And so we got to put a little bit of more time and energy into making demands from our government to make our lives better. And if we don't, if we give up there, it's not going to work out. These are problems that all of us share, and not let alone the environmental problems. So stop blaming yourself. Stop blaming other people for their problems. Yes, people have problems. People are flawed, but the system is putting downward pressure on us on a lot of ways, and so that's what's needed.
Well, thank you, Adam. Thank you for spending this time at K-Squid and giving us a lot to think about, and all the homework and your email that everybody can write to if they want to run for office. I think it's really interesting. I don't know if that I've heard anyone else recommend retired people or people who are financially secure, encouraging them in the way that you are. So
the most important thing are integrity and character, and with a public elected official, maybe in a private relationship too, but especially in a public official, their integrity, their character,
integrity and character,
and who's funding them. Whether they're coming from the community or they're just coming from the real estate lobby, who's funding them is the other big question. So
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Meilin. This has been a pleasure.
I had a great time.
All right, me too.